My name is DJ Ramo. I host a metal show out of Ashland, Oregon. We have an awesome FM station there. When I found out I was going to be able to interview you, man, super damn excited. I've been following your career ever since the 80s, man, and you are an absolute shredder. And last night, I got like my first glimpse at your solo project, and I love what you do on the guitar player. As a guitar player myself, dude, watching you play, man, it makes my ears melt.
Well, right on. Thank you.
Yeah, and then also, man, you know, when I saw that you're going to do this project with Adrian Smith, I was like, holy hell, like, I wonder what type of music they're going to be playing together, and seeing the way you guys collaborate with each other on this project, Smith and Kotzen, was absolutely amazing how you guys were playing off of each other, playing leads off of each other, and I just want to say that is absolutely amazing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
So, you know what, when I think of, like, projects that get together like this, I always think of, like, the histories of both previous artists. I mean, you and Adrian have been playing the music circuit for so long. When was the first time where, like, maybe you guys noticed each other and maybe decided you wanted to collaborate?
Well, for me, I mean, I've been an Iron Maiden fan since I was, 13. So it's a little bit of a different perspective on my end than it would be for Adrian. I remember Maiden being one of my first concerts, and just, Number of the Beast was an album that I played every morning before school. I was a super fan of Iron Maiden. But, as an adult and a person that's been, releasing records since 1989, I kind of evolved into, a guy that does, a certain thing. I guess a recording artist in his own right. But when I had the opportunity to actually meet Adrian, it started off basically as just a friendship where he'd come into town and we'd go out for dinner and hang out, and ultimately they would have these sessions at their house in Malibu, and I would get invited and we'd play together, and it came clear to me that we had a lot of the same influences as far as singers are concerned. Adrian was singing, and we were doing Paul Rodgers covers like Free and Bad Company and early Rod Stewart stuff, and so I realized we have some stuff in common. And then in more recent times, Adrian's wife Natalie had suggested that we get together and try and do some writing, and that really is how this project came together.
That is pretty amazing. I mean, both of you guys are amazing guitar players in your own right and have your own separate styles of songwriting. And, from listening to it, I feel the strong rock and blues influence. Going into the project, did you already have a lot of, like, maybe songs set aside that you wrote parts for both individuals, or was everything from scratch?
Okay, that's a good question. On this record, everything was a collaboration. So there might have been an idea that I brought in or an idea that he brought in, but I don't remember either one of us coming in with a completed song and saying, hey, let's do this song, and the song being done. We didn't do that. It was really a collaboration where we were both kind of, throwing ideas back and forth. If one guy ran out of gas, the other guy, would have enough gas to get the ball across the line. So, it was a true collaboration.
No, I absolutely love that, man. I enjoyed a lot of the lyric writing too. Just like in the songs like Taking My Chances. Like I love the inspirational lyrics, and the one song that really stuck out to me that I would say was one of my favorites was I Want to Stay. I think it's maybe just because I'm a real sucker for those playing leads, and so. I'm really interested when you guys are collaborating and writing this music together. Is there kind of like one person writes one part and the other person just like goes, okay, it's like your turn, go ahead, add this part?
Well, it's not that defined, to be honest. It's a little more like, hey, I have an idea. What do you think? And then it would be like, I like that, but what if we try doing it a little more like this? And, it just kind of goes back and forth. The only way that I can really accurately describe it is almost like if you were to imagine a friendly tennis match where you're just kind of volleying. You're not trying to necessarily, defeat the other guy. You're just kind of sharing ideas and just keeping a good volley going, But each song came about differently, so that's why it's so difficult to answer. Some songs, Adrian might have a concept for a lyric, like Glory Road, for example.
Yep.
Or, he might have a riff, and I might put a lyric to it, like Running, So it's just that it comes in so many different ways. A lot of folks want to hear that, there's one solid answer, but the truth is there really isn't. It's just every song comes about differently.
I love it, man. I love it. How do you guys go about choosing the right guitar tones and stuff? Because I know some guitar players, they work years to define their tone. Go through pedals, go through amps, and everything. Did you guys both go in using your signatures, or did you guys end up using maybe some computer simulators? How was that process like?
I used my signature Telecaster and my signature model Strat, and I also have, I'm like the signature guy, I have two signature model amps with Victory. I use those Victory amps, and then I have a pedal that has my name on it called the RK Fly Rig, the RK5 from Tech 21, which is a really cool pedal. It's analog, but it can also record direct. It has overdrive in it and delay. So those things were really, what I would use for the most part. But, I am interesting. The guitar and the amp and the tone, obviously I want it to sound good, but my first concern always is the song. I'll labor over a lyric or a melody, more than I will over a guitar sound. It's usually obvious to me what I want to play. Okay, I need a humbucking pickup for this one overdub. That would sound good through this particular amp. All that stuff comes to me pretty easy. And I'm not the kind of guy that likes to hear a million options. If I'm inspired and I have an idea, I want to capture the inspiration of the idea. Too many times in my youth, I've been in the recording studio and I was ready to go, all warmed up, great idea, inspired, can't wait to play the track, and an engineer would want to mess around trying out different compressors and mic preamps and screwing around. And by the time he figures out what he wants to do, I've forgotten the idea. So you might have the best signal path on the planet, but your artist is completely uninspired, so you're going to record shit. So I think it's really important to have a balance of all right, I got the sound I want, I'm inspired, let's rock, and not get caught up in searching for something that you may never find.
Absolutely. No, I'm in a complete agreement with you. And I bet it's got to be pretty mind-blowing that, you have all these signatures. Is this something that you always thought that you were going to have someday as maybe a kid or a teenager, or something you wanted to inspire towards?
No, it came out of left field. The whole idea was actually came from Fender. I had signed with Fender in '91, and I had a couple of guitars that they made for me to my specifications, and I had put a record out. I was about to put this record on Geffen called Motherhead's Family Reunion. It was my fourth solo record in '94, and my manager had hit up Geffen and hit up Fender rather, and said, "Hey, we got this record coming out. Can you guys help us with the promotion?" And it was Fender Japan's idea to do two signature model guitars on me, and that's where it started actually in '96. So that Stratocaster and Telecaster have been in production for a very long time.
That is absolutely amazing. And you said that you have your own pedal as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're designing a pedal, I mean, are you just giving the engineers your idea, or you want them to fuse certain effects, and maybe they send you drafts and then you send them back? Is that kind of the process?
It was a very specific thing that I designed, and I had built one for myself very crudely.
Whoa.
and it was something specific that I needed. So I actually built the very first incarnation of the pedal, and then I showed it to a professional company, Tech 21, that builds this stuff, for real. And we added a few things, and obviously made it much better than the original one that I built. And then from there it develops that way. But it developed basically out of necessity. I wanted the specific thing, and they were able to put it together for me.
Have you always been tech savvy? I mean, building a pedal, I can't really wrap my head around it. It sounds like maybe you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, I was at one point, and I'm really not anymore. I haven't really built anything in a long time. But when I was young, I mean really young, like in junior high, I was really into electronics, and I would buy these Radio Shack electronic kits, and they sold these books that were schematic books. So in there, they show you how to build like a radio or a motion detector that you can hook up to turn a light on and off through a relay. And so I kind of got into electronics. I got pretty deep into it at one point. I mean, at that point in my life, I could have went into that for a living. I was really into it, and then I flipped into music, and I didn't really do much. But there's some things that I remembered how to do. Like I built a guitar amp, years ago by reading a schematic. So I have some knowledge of electronics, but at this stage of the game, I haven't done anything like that in a long time. So I don't know that I have the skills that I used to have.
That's still pretty amazing, though, man. Especially as that way, being young, and if you're not signed doing these small shows, you're pretty much like your own guitar tech. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah,
I used to wire my guitars. A lot of guys did that. I mean, obviously Van Halen did that, and a lot of guys did that. But, it's nice to have a broader scope on what you're dealing with, with your instrument and all the components that go along with it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, I think you can fulfill the art form completely knowing, it's like being a NASCAR driver. You got to know your car too.
Right. That's a good analogy.
So, absolutely. So I got a couple more questions. I won't take too much more of your time. One of the things I encountered when I was on YouTube last night was your badass Billy Sheehan improv that you did on the bass.
I put that on Instagram. Somebody else put that on YouTube. I don't know how they did that, but yeah, that was an Instagram post that I made.
Dude, I thought that was pretty badass. I saw I've been following your guitar playing, and I think you absolutely shred. But I always respect those bass players that can work with their hands. Were you always playing other instruments besides the guitar? Because it seems like you're well practiced on that bass.
Well, bass in itself is an instrument that, I grew up, loving the bass guitar, and guys like Larry Graham, Stevie Wonder's bass player, Nate Watts, Bootsy Collins was probably the greatest show I ever saw live. He just blew my mind. And then, of course, you mentioned playing with Billy for all those years, and I was in a band with Stanley Clark. And a bunch of other guys, Stu Hand played on my first record. I can go on and on about, amazing bass players that I had the privilege of working with. But, I love the bass guitar, and I hear in my solo music, if you listen to a song, for example, like a song like Nickel Hustler off 50 for 50, or a lot of other ones, the bass guitar is very important in my solo music, and a lot of those songs are built around some of those bass lines. Like the song Turning the Table on 50 for 50, you'll hear that. So, bass is something I take really seriously, and I love playing bass on my records. It's just, it's so much about why my records sound that way is because of what I'm doing on the bass guitar.
Yeah, I love it, man. When I was listening to your solo project, it kind of reminded me of some proggy mixed with some catchy bluesy rock mixed with some heavy rock. It was all over the place, man. You know what? You've been playing guitar for years, played with so many awesome guitar players, projects. You know, now with like this new generation, there's a lot of people playing like the extended range guitars, you know, the 7 and the 8 strings, playing with the Kempers. You know, what do you think about like that new era of like kids and like those extended ranges and all like the simulators and stuff?
Well, it sounds like two different things you're talking about. One, first of all, like an amp simulator is one topic.
Yeah.
I think that is something that works from certain styles, but I'll tell you something, and this is just in my experience, and I've tried all those amp simulators, and they're great for a lot of things, but there's some things that you just can't replicate. And I'll give you an example. I have an amplifier, a Marshall 1974X. It's a low wattage tube amp, and I have that connected with an extension cabinet. And if you play a chord on that amp, other amps, many other amps are like this too, not just that one, but it's a hand-wired tube amp. If you play a chord on that amp and you let it ring, and you let it ring out, don't do anything crazy or make any noise, let it ring, you will hear harmonic overtones evolving, coming and going. And it's the only thing I can relate it to is if you put a good wine in a nice wine glass and you shake it around and you hold it up and you see those legs coming down, this is what you get with a tube amp with the audio feeling. The same way with tape. In the old days when you listened to a tape machine and you're sitting in front of the speakers, you would have a third dimension where you felt like you could reach in and put your arms around the bass guitar or the lead vocal. Unfortunately, in the world of digital, that doesn't exist. And what's really frustrating is that no one knows the difference because they're not comparing it. Like people forgot about what tape sounds like because no one's making records on tape. And the same thing with these amps. If you're in a band that's got a loud guitar, a lot of gain, heavy distortion, your volume knob's on 10, you can play through those amps all day long. But the minute you try to roll back your volume knob and do some kind of nuance, kind of really, I don't know, like what I just described with the legs on the wine glass type shit, you're not going to hear that. You're going to lose that. And for me as a guitar player, I've always found them very uninspired. I found them inspiring if I'm overdubbing a part. I'm just going to play some balls out rhythm guitar, I can do it. Or if I'm going to do a solo, full gain solo, I can do it. But any kind of like what I do live with my band where we're kind of using dynamics and that sort of thing, I haven't found one yet that responds like a proper tube amp. So that's the answer to that question.
So I probably have like maybe one question left before I have to let you go. Is being in the music industry everything you thought it was going to be after maybe starting music and now being in the music industry for as long as you have? Is it what you expected it?
Well, the problem is, I didn't have expectations about the business. When I was young, I thought that if you worked hard and you had something to say as an artist, you would be successful. I thought if you worked hard, had your own voice, and something to say as an artist, you'd be successful. And then for the very first part of the career I had, it rang true. And then somewhere along the line, I got woken up to the reality that the music business has nothing to do with artistic integrity and working hard and seeing results. There's some real crazy variables involved when you get into the world of the music business. And so the thing that I can say is that I found a way to survive as an artist without having to necessarily be in the music business. When I think of the music business, I don't think of Richie Kotzen. I don't think that I'm necessarily in the music business. I think that I am a recording artist that puts out original music and that has developed a base of people that are interested in what I do. I'm grateful and thankful for it, but that doesn't have anything to do with business for me. It has to do with being true to what it is that I'm about, and being lucky enough to have a platform where I can create my songs and have them be released. But I don't consider myself in the music business, because that's a whole other thing.
I love that. I love that answer, man. Thank you so much, Ricky.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.